Hey, my name is ShawNshawN. I sell art on ShawNshawN.co and specials on eBay. Today I'm going to review Shaft. This is the new Shaft from 2019, so it's kind of a follow-up to the one from 2000 with Samuel L. Jackson. In this one, Samuel L. Jackson plays Shaft again. Jesse T. Usher plays J.J. Shaft Jr., basically his son. Richard Roundtree plays the original Shaft, so kind of Grandpa Shaft. Regina Hall plays the mom of J.J. Shaft, and Alexandra Schiff plays Sasha's grade school friend. So the story kind of starts off with J.J. Shaft meets up with some old friends, Sasha and Kareem. He fell in hard times for a while. He was a drug addict. There's my cat getting into stuff. Well, he fell into hard times with drugs, and now he's supposedly cleaned up. He's found a new mission working with soldiers, and they're like, oh, that's great. And then his friend wants to tell him something, but he doesn't have time to tell him, and he's like, okay, I'll talk to him tomorrow, text me or whatever. And his friend goes outside, and JJ says, hey, is everything okay? What's going on? He's like, no, I'll talk to you later, we'll meet up later. He's like, all right, whatever. So next day, boom, Kareem's dead, and he's like, oh my god, what happened, right? So JJ Shaft is like, what? This doesn't make any sense. He just cleaned up. What's going on? And he starts to investigate. He's working with the FBI, but the FBI is like, no, we can't do anything for you. Don't mess up this case, this case on the mosque. And so they don't want to do anything with the mosque. And JJ Shaft's like, oh man, I gotta find some private detective. So I was like, okay, I'll look up my dad. And he's been basically estranged since he's been a baby, because Shaft had to leave when he was a kid, right? The kid doesn't really know that Shaft left because the mother and the baby were put in danger. And so Shaft's always been away because of that, not because he's an asshole, but deadbeat dad's a deadbeat dad, right? So he goes sees his dad, and his dad's like, all right, let's go check out some stuff. So they go find, where they buy the drugs, and then they talk to him. He's like, no, he hasn't been buying drugs here. So then they're like, what the heck? How do you OD without any drugs? They check out the drug. They start to look into the details at the morgue on how much he OD'd on, and then the amount looks really suspicious. Like, how do you OD on this much heroin? And then it looks like, oh, well, maybe it's a murder. And so they kind of start to investigate between Kareem has been hanging around these soldiers, and then, that seems fine, but maybe their one seems a little strange. And then they go to the mosque, and he has a new girlfriend he's become very religious, and then it's really odd, right? So he's not only joined this brothers things fixing Humvees and basically getting together with ex-soldiers and kind of cleaned up his act, and he's also in the mosque, so it really doesn't make sense. So they just kind of dive deeper, and then eventually they kind of uncover this big scandal, and they get behind who's really behind the murder. So it's kind of fun as that kind of unwinds. It's a nice, simple detective type of story. Good motive, of course. They shot his best friend, so I think that's kind of interesting as far as story-wise. What I'll say is, like, on the original Shaft, it was shot, I think the very first one was 1971, 70, and there was like 4 or 5 shafts. It was a crazy amount of shafts, right? And the guy that played the original Shaft, he tried to get away from it. He didn't want to be Shaft anymore because it was like this gangster kind of character, and he just wanted to break. He didn't want to get typecast, but he was totally typecast as Shaft. And so he tried to do all their projects and get away from the Shaft image as much as possible. So it's kind of interesting they finally roll him back into Shaft, because he kind of came to terms and said, well, they always see me as Shaft, so I might as well play Shaft Senior / Grandpa, right? I think the first series in the 70s were a lot more grittier, because they're kind of coming on the aftermath of JFK assassination, Malcolm X assassination, Martin Luther King assassination. So you have all this kind of racial tension coming to the surface. Civil rights is coming to the surface. It's made a lot of changes, but just on the surface level, but they're starting to break a lot of those molds. And so the original Shaft kind of did with this racial tension of the 70s coming out of the 60s. Its 50s was really racial, and then 60s kind of bubbled up, and then 70, there's progress, but also kind of lack of hope. All these great leaders that were peaceful got shot down. So the answer became kind of in the 70s really dark, in the sense like detectives shoot 'em up kind of thing, Clint Eastwood. So this is why you have kind of the Clint Eastwood shoot 'em up guys with Dirty Harry. Shaft is kind of the black version. So that's kind of the film and the grittiness of the original layer. And then you have the 2000 with Samuel L. Jackson. You have this version, 2019. So this one's really light, I would say. It doesn't have that connection with the original 70s political tension, racial tension. They have a little bit of that in there, but after you have Obama as president, it's like you kind of broken the last glass ceiling in a way. So it doesn't really have that edginess, I would say, the original films. They do have a lot better, you know, stunts, a little bit better CGI, of course. Car is kind of the same. He's got this car from the 70s, so Shaft has kind of the original car. I think in the beginning they shoot all these scenes of kind of Shaft, like when he gets at the baby, and then kind of every scene of JJ. And I don't know if they needed all those scenes, or maybe just, I think maybe all those scenes, but a little bit more condensed. I think they could have edited out maybe 5-10 minutes. I think what the director, you know, Tim Story's trying to do is go with the 1970s pacing of films. And in the 1970s, films were much longer and kind of long tracked. I mean, if you look at the Dirty Harry films and also his westerns, there's just a lot of, like, you know, quiet space and action, and a lot of action, and quiet space and action. And this kind of has some of the same things. There's a lot of dialogues, action, and dialogue and then action, which is fun, I think, because you get a better sense. But it's, I don't know if it works as well in nowadays mind, because people use their cell phones all the time, and people are like, blah, 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 blah. So people expect a lot more faster paced action. But it is nicer in the sense they don't have that jerky camera thing that's super annoying, like with Jason Bourne. That's horrible. I mean, I like the first one, but then they just got out of control with shaky cam. One of the really fun parts of the film too is the music. So they have all these different soundtracks, and you have kind of distillation of, when they do the history, they show all the different music of the era, so you really get kind of the flavor of all the music. And I grew up with a lot of this music because I was born in the 70s, so, you know, I knew some of those older tracks as well, so I knew all these tracks, or at least have heard them once or twice, so it's pretty fun. In that aspect, you get kind of that cultural connection between different music. You know, this person listens to this music, so you kind of have these assumptions, and you have all these stereotypes that go with the music, and they play that out into the film, which is pretty fun. And it helps really give the mood of the scene, or helps frame the character's style of music. So there's a lot of grit to that. I wouldn't say it's done as well as, say, Quentin Tarantino use of music, but it's definitely pretty cool. There's just a lot of music in here, but it's pretty fun, I think. But overall, it's kind of a fun story, I would say. It's pretty fun. I was gonna go, it was between this and Men in Black, and I thought, oh, this is gonna be more interesting, right? Men in Black without Will Smith, you're like, dude, they screwed that up. Like, why would you shoot Men in Black without Will Smith? But I don't know, maybe the new Men in Black International is okay. I'll go see it probably tomorrow, but we'll see. Overall, this film I think is fun. A little bit long. I think they could have edited it down a little bit, but overall pretty good. If you want to subscribe, you can subscribe below. And I'll see you guys in the next movie review. Thanks for watching.